We'll get this fixed. Hey guys, nobody's in here yet. So I can see an eyeball with the 0. And this is the last minute thing, so we're just gonna have some fun. It's still hot as shit outside. Got to adjust this a little. Get up here. Okay. Trying to get it adjusted, guys. If you want to type into the chat, please do so. There we go. Carol, welcome, Huntress, Fallen Angel. And here's what I'm going to do. Gotta pull my other cell phone out. Hunter Jim, welcome. And I'm here. Give me a second. I'm going to do something. Like this. Let's see if you guys got any haunted stories. Let's copy to board. See if this works. Nope. That's what I wanted. There's a link. You can come in, and I'll take one, maybe 2 persons at a time. If you got a haunted story, tell it. Because I was sitting here looking over YouTube, and I was looking for, okay, we got a live stream here. Nope. We got a live stream here. Nope. We got a live stream here. Nope. So just pop right on up. Colleen, welcome. And Huntress. I know you guys have got some haunted stories. You live in a haunted house? Paranormal activity? Experience? Come on, guys, because I'm only going to do this for like 1 hour. So we're waiting on you. Just click on that link that I dropped. Oh, you don't have StreamYard? Okay, Colleen, here's it. Here's what you do. You click on the link. It takes you probably 30 seconds to go through the process to create an account. And you're in. That's all how hard it is. I'm trying to get my own crap up here. Let's see. I have to go to my own channel on the second phone. There we go. Got it turned down. And we got Colleen coming in. Welcome.
Hi, Irish whiskey.
Let me turn this up. I think I might need to turn it up a bit.
Maybe it's on my side.
I got my
Is it on my side?
No, I'm just trying to play with the volume on this. You're okay. I mean, everything's coming through. I got a good picture here, but oh,
Uh,
shit. I'm bouncing all over the place because I'm trying to play with it. Okay. Can you hear me?
yes, I could hear you very clear and very loud. Well, not too loud, but good enough. How I'm gonna put this? I'm gonna try and make the story short so it's not so long. But I did live in a haunted house, and it's in Milwaukee. I can't close the whereabouts of this place. But when we first started moving in, haunted house, and it's in Milwaukee. I can't close the whereabouts of this place. But when we first started moving in, haunted house. Whoa. It's in Milwaukee. I can't close the whereabouts of this place. But when we first started, it's a rental property. Whoa. It's in Milwaukee. I can't close the whereabouts of this place. Sorry, guys. It's echoing. Could someone mute their mic?
Yeah, we got a repeat. Now I can better. Yeah, we got a repeat. No blood, I'm good. Okay, this phone here should be okay. It's not going to be picking up anything and repeating. And this one is turned all the way down.
Okay, thank you. It's just a lot of too much interference. That's why. Sorry, man.
Looks like we had an echo that was creating an echo.
And another echo. Alrighty. I think I'm gonna keep this story a little bit short, you guys, so the next person that comes up could tell their story too. I'll just jump off Irish whiskey after I get done. That's okay with you.
Okay, yeah, that's kind of what I was going to do. You tell your story, and then we'll get somebody else up.
Okay. We'll do that then. Sorry. Well, this rental property, when we first moved in as a rental, we have at least a month free rent. So we're like all thinking like, okay, yay, free rent, unless we fix up the place. Once we start fixing the place up, things start happening, and it's starting to progress each every week. So we're just sitting there and we're just like fixing this place up, getting all the old rugs out, ripping them out, putting new fresh paint, putting new flooring down, clean up the bathrooms because this place was a disaster. And then we'll start living in there. And little things comes up, just little things, no big deal. And then all of a sudden, we start hearing scratches in our basement door. The first reaction is,
Nobody's down in the basement. So all of us went down there to check it out, see if there's a raccoon, a possum, or a stray cat or a dog. Nothing's down there. So we all turned around and hid right back up the steps, and we locked the door. And we went to the living room and just sit down and watch some TV like a normal family does, watching cable TV, the news, or whatever. And all of a sudden, I just got up because I was thirsty. So at the time, I want to drink some water. Okay? Normal teenage thing, water. And I went to the kitchen and I opened up the fridge and there's a jug of water in there. So I poured myself a water and I put the jug back and I closed the refrigerator door. I went right back out to the living room, sat down with the family. Not even like 3 minutes, and my dad got up and went into the kitchen, and then he yelled at me, and he's like, "You get your butt in here and close all these doors." And I'm like, "Wait a minute, everything is closed," and I know for a fact everything's closed because I seen it when I left the kitchen. He's like, "No, you get back in here. You close all these cabinet doors and the refrigerator door now." So I had to go run all the way in there, close everything. I'm like, "You're my witness now. I closed everything in this kitchen. Let's go out to the living room. You come back in here in the next 4 minutes and see yourself." He's like, "Okay, fine then." So we're all back in the living room. We're watching TV. My brother's sitting on the hardwood and floor that we just cleaned up. And all of a sudden, he decided to want to get up and went to the kitchen to check up on something, and all the cabinet doors was wide open. And that wasn't the first instance. The second one was we heard footsteps coming up and down the steps, and we know we locked all the doors. And then my mom heard children in the bathtub. There's no water in the bathtub, but my mom swears up and down that she heard splashing, like children splashing in water. And it went on and on. Things was kind of start moving on their own. We'll put our keys hanging up, and the next thing you know, it moved to the table by itself. And none of us kids touched it because we know for a fact if we touch mom's and dad's car keys, we're gonna get our hands smacked. That's a big no-no in our house.
Was this an older house or a newer house?
It's an older house, and then I kind of eavesdropped on my dad and the landlord, and it was a gruesome history of the place. It was really bad. I guess what I heard when my landlord talked to my dad that it used to be a drug house, and one of their people snitched to the cop. Well, one of the people inside that drug house found out, killed both men, dig up the basement, and stuck their bodies in the basement. Yeah, really gruesome. All because you snitched, and the police is getting heavy on you, and the person knows who did it, so they killed them and put them down in the basement.
Yeah, that sounds like a typical mob thing here.
Yeah, but it's really
And then
gross.
they make sure they spread the news around as an example for anybody else that might decide to snitch so they make it as gruesome and slowly painful as possible. And that's going to throw out some negative energy.
Oh yeah, things was going on in that place. I mean, we had toys flying, we had chem doors open and closed. My mother, bless her soul, she's passed away now, but my mother at the time was doing laundry and she thought it was my father that came home and just pushed her up the steps. But when she turned around and trying to flip him off, like a usual joking way, whatever's there pushed her down the steps.
Yeah, so definitely not good.
Yeah, luckily we got out of that place and moved somewhere else. But
And
that was
I had one place that I lived at, and it was way out in the country. And I didn't find out. There was a lot of stuff I didn't find out until years later. But while we were there, I told my orb story where I seen this really super bright orb, flying or not flying, but slowly moving across, coming out of the kitchen, across the dining room into the living room, and it was bright. I mean, it got my attention, but it did not light up any of the rooms. It did not illuminate anything, but it was really, really bright. And in that same house, I could always feel someone was watching. Not bad, just there was somebody there. It was like somebody was in the room with you, and they were just watching what you were doing. Hanging in the background, but they were watching, and that's what I felt. And then I'm gonna say 20 years later, my daughter was telling me stories of I mentioned it, that house, what I always felt. She goes, you know what? When I was there, every night an older woman would come in my room and try to talk to me. And I figured that was the spirit. That's who was watching. She was just why she was there, how she was there, I don't know. But she was there.
alrighty, Irish Whiskey. Thank you for letting me come up.
Okay, Colleen. You have a good evening. And if
You,
anybody else has a story, I'm gonna go ahead and drop the link again. And because I know Samantha's got some stories, some major stories. So I'm gonna go ahead and drop the link, and let me get it up here. Okay, go. So thanks for coming up, Colleen. So Samantha, you've hit some pretty interesting places. I mean, I watched your videos.
Yes, can you hear me? Yeah. I only got more into the paranormal in the last 12 months and that. And the experience that I have had in the last 12 months has opened my eyes, really, it's very, I don't know if we're ever going to get answers to everything, Recently, I was at an abandoned army camp, and there was one particular building where we wanted to do a series of tests, and that was to do a number of paranormal investigations back to back. And we only got 4 investigations into it when somebody put the building on fire. But before we had finished, when we inside those 4 investigations, one of those investigations, I asked the spirits if there's any spirits here. Can you show yourself as a light anomaly if you're there? And next thing, this light flickered straight up the hallway, straight up the middle of the room into the corner. Now I looked at it, I slowed it down, I sent a clip to other paranormal investigators that I work with, and they says the way the light had flashed and went up, and the fact that it appeared just as I asked. Now I asked these questions just to ask, because I had headphones in, I had a microphone inside the headphones, and I had a spirit box on, and I was just asking those kind of questions to get a reaction, but I didn't expect to get a physical reaction, you know. So that was one of the highlights of the year, really, you know.
Oh yeah, I watched some of your videos, and it's like, and I know you're investigating, and you're really, I mean, you can't see it at the time until you go back. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on, and you're just, you know, you don't even see it at the time
No,
until you actually go back.
no, all the excitement is when you sit down at the computer at home and you go through all those files of footage, you know. And you know, with us, we just put the files together. We just put them back to back and then just put it out. Sometimes we may put a little bit of subtitles into the Spirit Box sessions, but largely we just leave it for people to discover for themselves. And very often, it's the viewer that actually catches the evidence. We don't catch all the evidence, you know.
Oh,
You know?
yeah, I know that. Yeah, because I mean, going through the video over and over and over and over, try to get, you know, cut here, add this here, and um, listen for this. It's like you can't catch everything. You can spend 40, 50 hours on a 30-minute video, and there's stuff you don't even see.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, like, by rights, what we should be doing is putting everything through sound equipment, slowing it down, and all the rest of it. But you know, it takes so much time. You know, it takes an awful lot of time. Even, you know, because you're checking for visual, you're checking for audio. You're going through everything like with a fine tooth comb, and sometimes we just don't have time. So the video goes out, and half the time, you know, we've missed things, and it's the viewer that actually picks them up. But it's very exciting for them, you know, because they're actually on the investigation with us, you know, and that's why we put it out as premiere, you know. You know.
Yeah, because I mean, I put out videos where I haven't heard anything, and they've been up. And I've actually had some that's been up for like 6 or 7 months, and all of a sudden somebody will make a comment like, "Hey, I heard this." I was like, you know, there's already been like 150 views on this, and all of a sudden this one person hears something, and you go back and you're like, there is something there.
Yeah, yeah. Some people's ears are sharper than others, you know. Yeah, I mean, like, there was another recent, a couple of months back, where I went into this abandoned modern house, and I says, I'm not going to do an investigation here today, folks. We're just doing an abandoned explore. We'll have a look around and all the rest of it. And when I put the video out, I said, there's no point. I said in the video, there's no point in me doing a paranormal investigation. This place isn't going to have any activity in that. And that was before you know, I'm learning all the time. But one of my viewers says, you said there was no activity in the house. How come there's a woman's voice saying, help me, when you walked into the hallway? And I thought, you know, maybe she's hearing things. So I went back and she time-stamped the piece of footage. And there it was, plain as day. And, you know, you know, we can, sometimes we can get activity. We don't have to go to a you know, a historic, well-known haunted location to get activity. I mean, like, I get activity in this apartment, and this apartment's only two years old. You know, possibly because I'm doing an awful lot of Spirit Box sessions and You know, I've got items. I'm not a, you know, there's these programs about you know, the haunted collector, energy and spirits are supposed to attach themselves to certain items and that. You know, I'm not 100% sure sold on it, but you know, recently I picked up evidence that, you know, possibly you know, I'm wrong. You know, because I actually have a doll that I got from a paranormal investigator whose name is Molly. Now, I'm not big into the haunted. I wasn't big into the haunted dolls either. I bought this haunted doll to try and debunk it, and I recently done a spirit box session in the house, and I asked what's the name of the spirits that are here, and I got the name Molly, and I had never mentioned the word Molly in that spirit box session. And I think it's important that if you're trying to get information, you're trying to get a certain name, that you don't mention the name, because sometimes, even if you said the word Slender Man, if you kept saying the word Slender Man, it's eventually going to come through the spirit box. They have this way of sometimes copying you, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched friends doing videos, and they're getting, you know, other friends, they're getting their names and all that. And all of a sudden, they're like, "Well, wait a minute, I didn't hear this. I didn't hear the name, but the voice sounds exactly like Irish." And when after she said that, I'm like, "Wait a minute, no, I got to go back." So I sit there and I put the video back, and I was listening to something coming over the box, and it sounded like me.
Yeah, I've had
And I'm like,
that too. Yeah.
how in the hell?
Yeah, we done a spirit box session one night in Rachel's house. Now, from that night on, we decided every single spirit box session we do that we're going to record it, whether it's on video or on a voice recorder. It's going to be recorded, because this spirit box session, I think, was the best spirit box session I ever done, because my own voice came through on it, and this was on the PSP 11. You know, thing was, we were just messing about. We just turned it on and see what happened. And I wasn't even speaking. Wasn't me that was doing the spirit box session. It was actually Rachel. You know. So there's a lot of questions that are unanswered, and we may never get answers to. You know.
Yeah, it's I mean, you just got to go out there and do the best you can. Try, I mean, get different pieces of equipment. And it's like, you know, I'm going to try something different with this, something different with that, and whatever you get, it's like, okay, this is what I have. I'm going to present it. You be the judge.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like when you get more and more into paranormal research and ITC and all the rest of it, the more serious you do become, and the more saddened and angered you get when you see these people. You know, their priority is their YouTube channel, their views, and they're faking evidence. They're not trying to debunk some of the things that happens, which is I've seen a lot of videos in the last 2 years, and I can debunk. I've learned to be able to debunk a lot of the stuff. And you see some of the people there going, "Guys, did you see that?" And they didn't even try to make an attempt to try and debunk it. And I think it's kind of disrespectful in a way too, because you're basically, people are accusing spirits of doing certain things which they haven't done. You know, that's why I'm passionate about the truth. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some of them. It's like, okay, well, you guys were like disrespectful, and the spirit got mad, and um, all of a sudden we have started having weather anomalies and stuff, and it's like, not really. I don't think that spirit's that a spirit is that strong. You got to have something with a lot of power to manipulate weather, and I don't think it was a 5-year-old little girl.
Yeah, yeah, um, yeah. we we also had we have a house in County Fermanagh in Northern Ireland, which I visited twice. The last time I went, I spent 8 hours there, and I originally found this location from a TV program on the BBC in Great Britain, and the series was called Northern Ireland's Greatest Haunts. And there was this little small abandoned cottage in the forest, in a rural forest in County Fermanagh. I didn't, I didn't see an awful lot of physical evidence on that TV program, but the way they were explaining how they were feeling and stuff, I was a little bit skeptical until I went myself, and my energy was completely drained. I was with somebody who said they always wanted to go, but when they got there, they says, "I'm not going up there. You're on your own." So I went up on my own. When I came down to the car, the person, I don't remember this, the person who was in the car with me said that I came down and I was like a completely different person. I was snappy and bad-tempered, and I was swearing half the way home. But actually, just coming out of that location, I actually threw up. Now, I didn't know until a couple of weeks after I seen the TV program that the film crew of that particular program were having problems of being sick. Their batteries were draining on equipment. It ended up they couldn't use any equipment. And the last time we went to this location, I came armed to the teeth with all the equipment that I had. I mean, like, I had cases and cases and cases, and then I had a case full of batteries, and we were just loading these batteries into this equipment, like putting cartridges into a rifle. You know, the batteries were going out within 5 minutes. We ended up I spent 8 hours there, but the last couple of hours, another paranormal investigating team who had invited me came, but I wanted to do my own video, so that's why I came early in that. But the paranormal investigating team only lasted 3 hours because all their batteries were drained as well. So, you know, we don't know. We were asking ourselves, is there some sort of fault line there or whatever, you know? We were also getting smells of sulfur and that there was a part of the roof was removed in the house, and there's no reason for that sulfur to be caught up in the house, but it wasn't escaping, you know.
Yeah. Something else I wanted to ask you, Samantha. I'm gonna have to step away for a minute, so you can give a lot. You live, or I think it's Rachel lives close to a relic area that has like an ancient stone wall.
Yes.
From that.
Yes, she lives actually close to the Derry Wall, and you may have heard a song called "The Siege of Derry." Back in the 1600s, the city of Derry, which was a walled city at the time, all the parts of the city were inside this wall. They were sieged inside; they couldn't get out, and they were starving. I actually went to museums where I seen advertisements, you know, where they were selling rats and cats and mice and that to eat, because there was no food getting into the city. So there's an awful lot of history there. There is an awful lot of haunted history in a lot of the buildings there. You know, I just have to be invited to some of these buildings, you know. But yes, she does live close to the wall. She also lives very, very close to the location of, you may be aware of Bloody Sunday, where there was a riot, I think, was it in the 60s or the early 70s, when there was the height of the Troubles in Northern Ireland. And in that area, American tourists come, and tourists from all over the world come and see all these murals on the gables of walls. It's a place that's unique to Northern Ireland. You wouldn't see that in other countries. But on those murals is the history of the Troubles and that, and and where she used to live, or where she lives. And there used to be blocks of apartment blocks, which were demolished to make new for make. There used to be these massive apartment blocks, 4 or 5 stories high. They were all demolished, and they were newly developed. So we kind of got a bit of that history in a Spirit Box session actually in our house. We actually were coming up with there was a male spirit that came up and said that he was murdered. That area that she is actually in is very, very close to the incident of Bloody Sunday, which you may or may not have heard of.
I'm trying to look up links. No, I remember when you went live, I was just getting, what I was seeing was like it was sometimes I get things, that's relevant to what's being discussed. And I got like a wall, but it wasn't really tall, but it was really, really wide. And it looked like a ruin, but it was telling me it was an older wall. And that's why during your stream, I asked, I goes, is there an older, wide wall? And you're saying, yeah. And I think that's where the energy was coming from.
Yeah, it dates back to, I think, the early 1300s, something like that. The earliest I know about it was the siege, which was in the 1600s. But there would be an awful lot of energy around that area, because that was the area where there was a lot of troubles in when there was the troubles in Northern Ireland. I don't say an awful lot about it in my videos, because there's still that animosity there. I actually went one day to look at a museum, a World War I and World War II museum, and it was in a Protestant area, and I got a ton of dislikes for it. So there's still that little bit of rivalry there, and that is why you come to the 12th of July and the 12th of August, and they're putting up their flags and they're painting their places, green, white, and orange to represent Ireland, and then you have the Union Jack, and there's this kind of flag war going on, if you know what I mean. I just stay out of the politics of it. I just went to film the actual museum, not taking sides in that. Of course, locally, you've still got that little bit of friction going on, and that was seen in one of my recent videos, where I actually was going to do a paranormal investigation on the street, and Rachel says we should go during the week, not on a Saturday, and I says yeah. But then when I was leaving Rachel's house, I says maybe I'll do it on my own, So I was about to hop into the car, and next thing, there was a big massive bang behind the Derry wall, where there was a car bomb had gone off. And actually, where I was going to go was actually about 100 yards from where that car bomb went off. Thankfully, we haven't had incidents like that as much since,
Yeah, especially when something like that, there's going to be a lot of emotion in there.
Yeah.
And you really have to watch out for things like that.
Yeah.
When you start dealing with anything that's paranormal, you're going to have people that there's like, okay, well, my religion says this and this and this. And they'll literally come into your stream and start freaking attacking you, calling you you're in league with the devil, you're evil. Um, no, it's just that's what they've been taught.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, like you will get those people that they will criticize you, they will make comments, and they actually still don't understand. You know, um, you know, all we're trying to do is we're trying to understand. We're trying to understand the other world that is out there, and possibly the afterlife. We can't do. It's not scientifically proven that what we're speaking to through the spirit box is actual spirits, even though they do say there's spirits in that. But I don't think science is actually going to solve that puzzle. You know?
What I think science is going, well, science is actually kind of proving part of what we're
Yeah.
saying, because science is like they're talking about the string theory, and
Yeah.
they use mathematics, and it's like, well, science has proved that the string theory, mathematically is possible. Well, the only way that's going to be possible is if there's more than 10 dimensions. So they're saying, okay, well, yeah, the string theory is correct, so we got to have at least 11 dimensions. You're not going to be able to prove that in a laboratory, and that's the
No.
big thing. Trying to prove they're studying and saying, well, the paranormal is not real because it doesn't work in the lab. Well, the lab is a you know, three dimensional, and the paranormal is multi-dimensional, so it's not always going to work out.
No. No. Um. Yeah, the one big question, and I've seen it on another paranormal channel, and I recently been thinking of it myself. Do you know we all go out with our K2s, we go out with our REN pods, we go out with our spirit boxes, and all that kind of stuff, and we all seem to be copying one another. The question that keeps coming through my mind is, where do we take the next step? Where do we go from here? Or are we still going? Are we going around in circles? Do you know?
No, what it is like I said, we're going about something that's multi-dimensional. I mean, and this can carry over into the UFO community where they say, okay, well, is this a UFO? And they're looking at a UFO as something that is metal, nuts, bolts, when it could be something that is manifested from pure energy. There is no metal, there is no nuts and bolts, there is no working parts. It's just energy. It's a living energy
Yeah,
that we're seeing.
yeah,
But I mean, the science that's being shown to us, is saying, well, it really doesn't exist. But I think there is science that shows that it does exist, but there's people trying to hide it because they fear of losing control.
yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, like we've had other experiments, like using the TV with a camera, and the camera is actually recording the television, but it's actually in a constant loop. And there was great results came up from things like that. And if we were to believe the scroll experiment in the UK, you know, the only thing about the scroll experiment in the UK is they done a long-term research where they done all this research in a basement of a house, and that. But when the scroll experiment came out as videos, we didn't see everything. So are we supposed to believe everything that's gone on there? I don't know if you're familiar with the scroll experiment.
No.
Yeah, it was a series of tests of paranormal experiments in the UK. I think it was in the 1970s. You know, but it was something that's always on my mind. Where do we take the next step? From the REM pods, the K2s. the Spirit Box communication. You know, the thing is, there could be advances in paranormal research, but those people are making those discoveries are afraid to put them out to the public, especially on YouTube, because of a certain person who has taken some of those people's research and stuck their own flag on it, and is now making money. You and me know exactly who that is.
Yeah.
So it has actually stunted the growth of paranormal research. There is possibly new advancements in paranormal research, but you know, there's a good chance we're not going to see it, because there has been researchers who have said, if we make discoveries, I am not going to put that discoveries out into the public at this moment in time, because of a certain person who puts their own flag on it, changes a little bit of it, and sells it to the public. You know, you know, there was experiments done on guitar pedals. Now people are going to get the idea who I'm talking about, but
Yeah.
those experiments were actually done by another person who does not have an awful lot of money, and he is a very, very good researcher. He was never named, and this other person is now packaging this on a speaker box and selling it to the public, promising all this kind of stuff, you know?
Yeah, for retarded expensive prices and major profit margins. And it went from, apparently, I mean, at one time I understand that this person was really dedicated to the paranormal, but
He was
the monster of greed came in, and it's like, wow, I can make money off of this. And it's like they're not really helping. They're helping the people that want to debunk, because they can say, well, look at this. This is what they did. And they did this and this and this and this, and this is a big name. So everything in the paranormal is fake.
he actually was very, very good in the beginning, yes. Until marketing came into it and making money. And the paranormal was never about making money. It was about finding evidence, trying to get an understanding. It wasn't meant to be a retail money making thing. And then you have these other people, these ghost hunting companies, that are selling some of these products that actually are repurposed from that were originally used for other things, like door handle alarms, where they're selling them as a REM pods and selling them for 60 quid. I make them here for less than £5. You know, I can convert those particular alarms for less than £5, and these, you know, and then you have these paranormal investigators who are new to the field and think they have to go to these ghost hunting companies to buy their stuff. You know, they're even buying their recorders from ghost hunting companies, so sometimes vamp up the price. You know, when you get a little bit more used to the paranormal, you start to experiment. You start to think outside the box. You know, yeah, you know.
Okay. Thanks for coming in, Bridget. Appreciate it. Don't be a stranger, and don't forget to share the link.
I actually can't see the chat. This is actually my first time ever being on a panel. You know.
And this is this StreamYard, because well, you know, I've done live streams, but I've never been able to do a panel. I never had. I don't have home internet, so I mean, they had Hangouts. I could go on a panel, but I couldn't, you know, host one.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Now all of a sudden I got StreamYard, and I can actually host a panel up to so many people, and it's free. And I'm like, oh my god, You know what this is going to do for me? It's going to make things so much easier. I mean, there's so much I wanted to do with my wild card and getting people up here to share their opinion. And in the past has been, well, if you want to come on to my stream and share your opinion, you got to type into the chat, and you only got so many characters, and it's hard to do.
Yeah, I
But
think
now,
I think it works pretty good, and I want to actually eventually do something like what you're doing here. I'm trying to set up a studio at the moment, and this is going to be pretty. This is going to be something like this would be pretty useful. You know, I know people like Green Bay Wacky and Cab 7 have done trials on Zoom and that, but this is free. You know.
yeah, this is free. I mean, Zoom to do any type of panel to YouTube or anything else, you got to pay $15 a month. This is totally free,
Yeah.
completely free. And here's the kicker: I'm not doing it from a computer. I am doing it from my cell phone, a $40 cell phone.
That's what I find amazing, actually, that you're outside with your phone and you're controlling all this. You know, whoever thought in the 1980s we'd be doing this? You know?
Oh, I mean, when I first started getting into ghost research, there was no internet. It was like you went to the library, you had to pull out a card catalog, and you had to have an idea of the topic you were looking for, and try to guess at different titles, because they were all alphabetical by different subjects, and of course, there was no paranormal subject in the library card catalog. You had to look under fiction.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
And it was like, I mean, this is like a godsend. This is like a freaking endless library compared to going to the library and finding one book. And
Yeah.
then you have to, like, basically, if you want to find any more, you have to walk up and down the aisles looking at the titles.
Yeah. Yeah. I came up onto your stream because you were asking about people's paranormal stories, and one thing that I remember from my late childhood was what I know now was an actual apparition of a young girl in a mansion that it was used by the Catholic Church for religious weekends. Now, one night I was on one of these weekends, and on one night I heard this girl crying in the courtyard. The courtyard is kind of enclosed by the building itself. It was kind of like it's squared off. There's only one way in and one way out of this courtyard. I looked out my window and I looked down and I seen this girl in a white nightdress sobbing and crying. And I says to everybody else in the dormitory, which was a dormitory with little sections, I says, there's a girl crying down under my window. I says, is that one of our girls that is in the group and that? And everybody was looking down. I says, some of them were saying, I don't see anything, but I can hear her crying. I says, she's down there. She's only down there. Like, I was only one floor up. Like, and I says, she's down there. Some of them could actually see it and couldn't hear it. Some could hear it and not see it. So a group of the people that were in the dormitory says, right, we're going to find out what's going on, and we're going to find out if she's okay. But there's something kind of strange going on here. So what we do is, one group goes out that way, goes out the door at the side. The other group go out this way, go out through the fire escape, and we'll meet in the middle. We'll just find out. And they wanted to go in a group because it said there's something strange about this girl. We're out in the middle of the countryside. It's not one of our girls that is here. So who is it? Like, we're out in the middle of the flipping forest, like. So they came around, and I decided I was too scared. I says, I'll keep an eye on her from up here down at the window. But I blinked for a second and she was gone, and there was no way that she could have gone anywhere. And what we think now, what happened there was, it possibly was what we call stone tape theory. where energy is absorbed into the crystal of the stone of the building and played back like a video under certain atmospheric conditions, you know. And I didn't know anything about the history of this building until a couple of months ago when when this memory came back into my head, and I found out that this in its past was a school for girls who wanted to be teachers. I was dumbfounded, and that is one of the reasons why some of the times I go to these paranormal locations and that I do not want to know the history. I want to find out myself, because the human mind, if it comes up with if it's told a story, it can affect the person that's doing the paranormal investigation. So I'd rather go in with a blank. I just rather have no history at all of a location, and to discover that online that this was actually a girls' school for girls who wanted to be teachers. You know, it just was amazing. But we think that this is a possibility, that the crystal, similar to a VHS tape, that energy can be absorbed in objects, which I'm sort of debunking myself, because I'm skeptic. I'm a skeptic of energy of haunted objects, but you know there is a possibility there.
Oh, there's a definite possibility. Samantha, I've heard stories where, and they're very, very rare, where someone is out somewhere and all of a sudden they will hear like a loud noise, and then eventually they'll see something like a T-Rex moving. But the T-Rex, where the T-Rex is walking, is like 30 feet above the ground level. It's like it's walking on air.
Yes.
And they'll go back and they're like, okay, well, when the T-Rex roamed this area, the elevation was like 30 feet higher. And that's about how high it was walking in the air.
Yeah.
The T-Rex doesn't have it's not a ghost, it's not a spirit, interacting. It's a residual playback.
Exactly. Yes. And you sometimes get these stories of a headless horseman or a spirit with no feet. What we believe there is the energy is coming out, but it's not strong enough to project the whole image, and that's why you lose some of the top or some of the bottom. You know, so that's why we get some of these stories about the headless horseman and things like that, or the headless monk or things like that. You know,
or you see a torso moving with no legs.
Yeah. What we think there is the energy is just not strong enough to get the whole picture out there, and some of the parts of it just gets hazed out. It's not strong enough to get the whole image out there. It could be environmental conditions as well, you know.
Yeah, because where that was, whatever is being replayed, the stone with the crystal that recorded it could have broken down and half of it washed into the sea, over 10 million years.
Yeah.
Even 500 years, because in this area here, it's all desert. I've been out exploring the desert, but there is a place where there's a metal ship that's in the middle of the desert, and people are like, well, what the hell is this? There's a ship out here, and it's metal. And what it was is way back in the day when they had before they built the Hoover Dam, there was the there was a lot of waterways going down, and there was deep waterways, and there was lakes and all that in the desert. But when they built the dam, that stopped, and those rivers dried up, and you got a metal boat sitting out in the middle of the desert, because that 20-foot channel or 20-foot deep channel is no longer there, that went all the way to the ocean.
Yeah. I think as well, when you're thinking about stone tape theory, we had a case couple of months ago. I don't know if you were aware of it. We were, myself and a photographer, we're in a graveyard, and we seem to have captured something that looks like a figure in black clothes that is walking into a church. Now, when I went back the next day to try and debunk it, to try and see was it a gravestone, and that there was no gravestone in the area where this image that I seen, which actually was caught on video, and it's just I took a snapshot of that little bit of video footage. But the photographer was sitting on steps, and this image was beside him. Now, the area where this figure was standing was a grave. There was a tombstone over the door of the church, and the story goes that this priest or reverend, when he died, they decided to bury him at the front doorstep of the church, so the people could walk all over him, because he was that badly looked down upon, because he was supposed to be very, very nasty person, you know. And that's where the actual image was that I captured. I cannot debunk it. I tried and tried. It was I actually went the next day. I said, I can't take this anymore. I have to go back there and I have to redo this whole thing and try and debunk it. And there's nothing in the way physical that I could have made a mistake. But the thing is, this figure looks like, you know, when I measured it all up, this figure was something like 7.5 feet, which physically is impossible. But if it's residual and is coming from the stone itself, maybe it was stretched. Do you know?
Yeah.
You know,
Or it could have been something that was. I know a lot of people don't believe this, but it was like a human alien hybrid or something.
Yeah.
Because out here in the desert, and a lot of people's like, oh, you know, it's bull hockey. Well, there's been skeletons found, red-headed skeletons found that range from 7 to 8 feet tall.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
there's skeletons. So now say they don't exist. There's skeletons. You're not going to see a lot of it in the news, but I mean, it's out there.
Yeah. But it was quite strange that, you know, the photographer was sitting at the steps specifically, keeping guard in case anybody came into the graveyard, into the cemetery, because I was actually doing a Spirit Box session. I was doing my Spirit Box session in my usual way, where I was wearing the headphones and putting one microphone in here and one on my shirt, so I could walk around. I could walk through a town and do a Spirit Box session, and nobody would know I was doing it, you know. And the thing that I was thinking afterwards, I'm putting on a pair of headphones. You know, when you normally do a Spirit Box session, you turn it on, the sound goes into the environment. But when I'm wearing headphones and I have the microphone in here, I'm not blasting the sound into the environment, but I'm still getting responses. So that's kind of there's questions to be asked there. How is the Spirit Box being manipulated as a form of communication? You know?
Yeah. Well, I've gotten, and just right here on this property, I have gotten where I went in, and I've gotten. It sounds like a spirit's repeating the word, and I really didn't notice it until I got a better microphone for my camera, an external microphone. You could actually hear it being spoke into the camera, and then like a fraction of a second later, being echoed from the Spirit Box.
Right.
And it's the same word, same voice. It's just one's clear, and then one, when it comes to the Spirit Box, it sounds a little more electronic because it's coming through a speaker. But it's the same voice, same word, and just like boom, boom, right there. I was like, okay, you know, all these people saying it's like, oh well, all it is radio feedback. It's like, well, how does radio feedback go right into my camera before it comes out of the radio?
Yeah, true enough. Yeah, you know, Yeah, I mean, like I originally I started doing ITC. Well, I originally started doing ITC when I was 16 and 17 years old, and actually it was from um, a video that my science teacher showed me, who was I think he was an Italian. I can't pronounce his name. He recently passed away, but people think that spurt box sessions or spurt boxes are only a recent thing. No, this guy, he had this old wooden valve radio, and he was messing around with these dials for something like 40 years, and people were flocking to him to contact their loved ones. And I seen this video, and it was kind of done raw, and there was people just sobbing because they heard their loved ones, and I couldn't understand the language, those subtitles and stuff like that, but it just looked really really legit. And unfortunately he passed away, I think last week or the week before, and there's no word about him. I cannot pronounce his name, but he actually influenced me in looking into ITC research. And then I had an uncle who also was into contacting UFOs and aliens, the possibility of aliens and UFOs. So we were actually experimenting with ham radio as well, and dialing in between frequencies and stuff like that. Then I got fed up. I went on to other things, and I just recently came back to it. And I'm glad I did, because things have advanced more since. And I kind of came back to try and debunk the spurt box, to be honest with you, because I just wasn't 100% sold on it. And you know, the first time I got what I would consider real responses, I didn't hear it in real time. I brought it home, brought the footage home, put it into the computer, put my headphones on, and went, my God, it said spurts when I asked it to say spurts, and I'm going, oh my, and it just, you get addicted to that excitement,
Yeah,
because it's like hidden treasure,
yeah, it's like holy crap. And I've gotten some good EVPs with no spirit box, digital voice recorder. It's just right into the camera. And I mean, it was another one where I was with HSFL in
Yes.
the in that hotel, and it was like I didn't hear it at the time, and I couldn't hear it until I actually put headphones on and I was going over my video. But he was like, I was trying to do the REM pod and get responses from that, kind of like the yes no, and he's like, he looks at me, and goes, "Did you just whistle?" And I'm like, "Dude, I can't whistle." He's like, "No, I swear I heard a whistle." I'm like, "I didn't hear nothing," and I'm like, it's like I didn't hear squat, and he's like, so I start talking, and he's like, "I just heard it again," and I'm like, "Well, if you heard it, then it's got to be on the camera." Because he was recording, I was recording. It's like, it's got to be on the camera. So I was going through and I was listening with my headphones as I was going over my video, and all of a sudden I heard a whistle, a faint whistle, and then I hear John go, "Did you just whistle?" And I was
Yeah.
like, "No." And I was like, but that reminded me of another time I told him, John, because there was one where I was in a cemetery with a semicircle of graves where I thought I heard a wheeze. It sounded just like a wheeze, and I was like, I didn't say anything because I thought I was tripping or maybe it was me. But when I went back, it was a full blown whistle right into the camera.
Yeah. Do you when you do EVPs on a recorder, do you just let the recorder run, or do you ask, like some of these YouTube investigators, do you ask 3 questions? Yeah, after each question you leave about 20 seconds or whatever, or do you just leave the recorder running?
Well, I've done both. I've had where I done an investigation in the murder room,
Yeah.
and I said, I said, spirits, if you want to speak, speak into the recorder. I started it, and we walked out of the room, and it was sitting in there for 18 minutes. I got one EVP where you could hear us outside, but there was one EVP where you could hear a female's voice right next to the recorder, and it said work. But back then, when this person died, the recorders were usually voice activated. If you left
Yes.
it was voice activated because it was a tape, so you only had so much record time. So
Yeah.
you put it on voice activation. Well, the female come over and said work.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I have I don't have the DR60. I have the one after that. And I have 15 or 16 different other recorders. But actually, one of the paranormal investigating groups that work with me, Peninsula Paranormal, they actually just let the audio record, because it's like with 3 questions, what you're doing is you're casting out a small bit. Like if you're fishing, you're casting out a small bit, and there's a possibility you might catch something there. But if you leave it running, you have more of a chance of catching something. You may not catch it on the camera, but you might catch it on the recorder and that. The thing is, people are doing these short, what they call EVP sessions, is because they don't want to go through a big load of 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hours of listening through audio. But actually, sometimes I think it can be worth it,
Yeah. Well, if you have the time. But there's some I want to bring up, and I don't know if Michael, if you can hear me, if you're busy, at least give me a thumbs up. What
Yeah,
I'm thinking about.
he's on mute at the moment. The only thing I can see is his budgie, I think. Somebody came into the room there and called him out, and he went on mute there. So I don't know if he's coming back or not,
Yeah, he's got it muted. But what I was thinking is like, okay, because like you said, the spirit box is new. Okay, get an old, either a tube or a solid state. Get an analog television set that has the white snow when you're not on a channel.
That's right, yeah.
Put it on that. Get not a spirit box, but get an audio voice recorder. Put it there. Have the TV. Don't turn the volume way up. Have it where there's a little bit of white noise. Turn the audio recorder on. Ask a question. Wait 2 or 3 minutes, and then ask a different question. So, like, what is your name? But only ask what is your name once. And then you could say, well, how old were you when you passed away? But only ask it once. And then change the other question. The next question is like, what is your favorite color? So if you hear a number, it's going to refer to an age and not how many spirits are there, because you only ask a question where a number answer would be once.
Yeah.
And then what is your favorite color? Don't say what's your favorite color, and then later on say what color shirt am I wearing. Just where if you hear a particular answer, it's to this question. So even if it comes 5 or 6 minutes later, it's to that particular question.
Yeah. Actually, I recently done a spirit box session. I didn't put it out yet. I don't know with the camera. I didn't do it live, but I asked, and I didn't hear it at the time. I heard it when I played back, and it was which is very good is to ask the same questions in 2 different ways. First of all, I asked who is here, and I got a female's name answer. And then after that, I says, what is your name? And I got the same response. So if you get that response twice, it's pretty good, But trying to learn to ask the same question in 2 completely different ways, and looking for that same answer in those 2 questions. We're learning all the time, we're learning what to ask and how to be respectful as well. I actually have a friend who actually criticized me for treating the spirits like children and asked them to jump through hoops. She says to me, you walked into their space and you're asking them the colors of snooker balls. Like, who do you think that you are to walk into their space and start saying, what color is this? What color is that? What number is this? And stuff like that. You need to be more respectful. She says, you need to speak to them like they're another human being.
Yeah.
You know, if they are spirits, they once were on this earth like you or me, and they passed on. You don't need to ask them stupid questions and treat them like children. That's what she said to me, and it made me think maybe I should be asking questions in a better way, or just having a conversation, like I was having a conversation, like I'm having a conversation with you. You know?
Yeah. Well, and I mean, that's how I talk to them. It's like, it's not like they were once people; they still are people. It's just we have bodies and they do not have bodies, but they're
Yeah,
still people. They're still
yeah,
humans, and
yeah,
especially if they're earthbound, they still got all their emotions. They can become upset. They can become pissed off. They can if they're child spirits, they can throw temper tantrums. Um, it's just instead of you know throwing themselves onto the floor, they may throw a book across the room.
yeah. I believe I have a child spirit here, and when I stop doing spirit box sessions for a while, I get stuff thrown and that. And actually, it was captured uh, right in this spot where I was actually trying to make a video. That video didn't actually go out, but I actually was sitting actually this way, and a piece of paper which I found later on actually had passed the back of my head, and I was here on my own. Unless my dog learned how to throw things, I
Yeah.
don't know what. I can't explain it. It would freak out a lot of people, but I think sometimes when these things or objects are thrown, it's not out of malice. It's more, hey, I'm over here, kind of thing.
Yeah. We're
Um,
still here.
yeah, you know.
Well, I had one night I was out here and I did a live stream, and but I used my live stream phone. So I shut it off when I go in the house. I shut it off, and I usually use my second phone. I'll take and I'll read the chat with it. Okay, I turned it, turned the app off and all that, and I set it where I usually do. And
Yeah,
I don't think it had been like 20 minutes. All of a sudden, I hear click, 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 and I'm like, what the fuck? And I look over, and my phone that is sitting on a shelf, like 3 feet away from me, is sitting there snapping pictures left and right. And as soon as I reach for the phone, it stops. So I'm like, how did the camera app come on? Two, how is it taking pictures? I mean, over and over and over. And I looked at it the next morning, and there was 23 pictures that had been taken of the ashtray it was leaning upon.
yeah. I
And I
mean,
was
like
like,
our touch screens are very sensitive pieces of equipment, and sometimes we don't think to use them to try and communicate or use it as a piece of equipment itself.
well,
I go on ahead.
the odd part about this is my dad had passed, and I don't think it was even 2 weeks later, and then this was happening. So I think it was my dad saying, "Hey, I'm here,"
Yeah, yeah,
because in my apartment, it's like I got a very very strict rule. Spirits, you can hang around, but you have to wait outside. You can't come in. The only ones that can come in are my family, my guides, and my guardians, and that's it. Nobody else. Everyone
yeah,
else has to go outside.
yeah, yeah. I was in a shop in a filling station, a petrol station, on the way home yesterday, I had to get a few bits and pieces. I had to get milk and things like that. And then I went in. There was a little children's section, and I seen balloons and bubbles. And I says, you know something, I'm going to buy those, and I'm going to bring them on the next investigation. Because I was kind of thinking, if you had a bag of balloons, right, in your bag of equipment and that, and if you blow up a balloon and tie it and put it in your hand, what you're doing is you're increasing the surface area of your hand. So if you go into a pocket of energy, you're possibly going to be able to pick it up through the actual balloon, which is very, very sensitive.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
You
balloons
know?
also that if you get like the actual like latex or rubber, they'll hold a static electricity charge too.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. You know, I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with the bubbles and that, but maybe I could use it to debunk stuff if I wanted to find out if there was a little bit of wind or a breeze in a room, just blow out a few bubbles. If I
Oh yeah.
wanted to debunk stuff, and so I says I'll put that into my equipment bag. You know, sometimes it pays to think outside the box. You know, some of our household items, you know, they can be used. You know.
Yeah, well, I mean, was it improvise, adapt, and overcome? I mean, just try different things out.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, like I started off this channel influenced by a paranormal investigator who had very, very little equipment. And some of the stuff that he got from a dollar store, you know, like, you know, those little butterflies with little springs on it. When the wind blows, the wings go up and down and that. I used to stick that in. Used to stick that in the ground and ask the spirits, if you're here, can you make that move? And it just little sensitive springs to wave the wings and that, you know. You know, items like that, and those wind chimes and stuff like that. So he was actually thinking outside the box because he hadn't got the advanced equipment, you know.
Yeah, well, I mean, it all costs money. I mean, I myself, I didn't jump out with a night vision infrared camera and REM pods and spirit box and big old $100 speakers. And I mean, over time, you got to get it. But I mean, I just started off. I had a little K2 and I had a spirit box with a little cheap speaker. And
Yeah,
actually, the um, the cameras I started with were like 240p or 360p, and
yeah,
they weren't anywhere close to high definition.
yeah. We still actually buy the low definition camcorders because we use them as you know, with paranormal teams where they have a lot of equipment and that, we use them as we just mount them on tripods and that, and use them, focus on an area of a room, and then we can review the footage. Because if you have one camera and you're doing it like a video, like a YouTube video, there's other things going on in other parts of the building and in other rooms that we actually miss out on. So that's why we have some of these other older camcorders and cameras, you know, and it keeps the cost down. But you're able to cover these other rooms, you know.
Yeah, well, like I said, I got a I got an infrared night vision, and the last video I did in the Padre Hotel, we left it going overnight, and we were getting flashes of light, but I had one camera. So it's like if I could have made like an X and hit one part of the room and then hit another part of the room with the second camera,
Yeah,
maybe we could have find out, you know, we could find out where it was coming from. But the freaky thing is when those actually started, I was still awake, moving around, and I did not see that light.
yeah,
But yet, when I was reviewing the video, you could sit there, and I watched myself, you know, set it up, and then I was going into the bathroom and out of the bathroom, and that light was flashing in the same area, and I was
yeah,
walking around the freaking room. Where'd it come from? I have no idea. And then when I
yeah,
turned off the lights, we were all the lights were out. The bathroom light wasn't even on. All the lights
Yeah.
were out. And I was sitting there, and John slept in the bed. I was in a chair where where at the beginning we have the K2 sitting on that arm of the chair. That's where I was sleeping. And I could feel energy moving around me, but it was like I had no idea lights were flashing.
Yeah. Yeah, the advantage that we have actually is we have two. A lot of the time I have another person with me, Rachel, who I didn't have to teach anything. She just one day says, "You have another camera there. Can I use that other camera?" And I says, "Yeah, fair enough, yeah." And this camera that I had given her to use is actually a 10-year-old camera, and the picture on it is better than the camera that I actually used. But the thing is, there's two of us. She's off doing her own thing, and I don't know what she's at until I go home and look through her footage, and the way she calls out, she's what she's doing. She's copying what she sees us doing and that, but she does it in a very. She does it. I didn't have to teach her anything. The
She's a
thing is,
natural.
yeah, and because there's two of us, we got a double chance of getting something because there's two cameras running.
Yes, because you can get two different angles of the same room.
Yeah.
Where like
It's
when I go out by myself, I can only get one angle, and it's like if something happens, I got to hope it's not happening behind me because I'm not going to see it, and the camera's not going to see it.
Yeah, it's just a real pain to try to put that all into a video without making it look choppy. I had to try and add her footage into mine without it looking that it's jumpy, that it's jumped into something and it just doesn't fit in. So I have to sort of blend it into what I've already done. But to have more than one person do with cameras, it just doubles those chances for us.
Yeah, because I mean, like I said, the cameras I started with, I mean, they're good cameras in the daytime. They get nice clear pictures, but the thing is, one's a 240, the other is a 360, and the image size is like a 4:3, where the cameras I'm using now is a 9:16.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you're going to sit there, and if I jump from one camera, one's going to look like like an old school TV that's square, and then another I'm going to jump to a wide angle TV,
Yeah.
and it's just not going to look good. It's not going to be, everybody's like, oh man, what the hell is this?
Yeah. But if it's going to be, sometimes you can blend that in with a natural flow. But I just don't edit. I do edit these other videos that outside of the paranormal, but I generally I just don't touch the paranormal videos. I just one file after another. Might put in an intro, and I use every single intro is different. I used some of the footage that I have taken for that particular video. Add a bit of music. The rest of it, I just stack the files one after the other. Put an outro, and that is it. No messing, no jump cuts, nothing. And yeah, investigation can go on 3 or 4 hours. If I film for 3 or 4 hours, I got a 3 or 4 hour video. YouTube, they say 20 minutes is the best time to have the best length of time for a video. I don't particularly care, to be honest with you. I just want that investigation to be out there and to be out as pure as possible. I'm not in for numbers,
Yes, Matthew, you might try breaking it down into other pieces because, and here's what the like 15-20 minute rule is. If you got like a 2.5 hour video and everybody stops watching after 20 minutes, the algorithm is going to think, okay, well, this is not really an interesting video, and it's not going to push it out to other people, as much, where you get the, this video, if you're watching videos to say, YouTube recommends this video for you.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know, you break it into smaller pieces because that's the thing I'm having. I'm putting out a lot of stuff where, like, I'm doing a 15, 20-minute EVP session, and I'm putting out the video. I'm spending 20 hours, 25 hours editing that one video, and then when it comes to the watch time, I'm getting like maybe 25 views and a 2 hours of watch time.
Yeah.
So it's like the evidence is there, but nobody's looking at the evidence. You might have one person come along that views the whole thing, and that's
Yeah.
trying to find a happy medium.
But
That's what I'm
that-
trying to
Yeah.
deal with.
Then again, you do. I do have those viewers that I don't do live investigations at the moment. I just do these premieres, But they feel like that they're out there investigating as well, because some of this sometimes I don't highlight what I capture and that, and sometimes I actually miss. So they're sitting there with their headphones and listening and looking and that, and they feel like that they're on an investigation as well. And a lot of people do some of the people do, the ones that are really into the paranormal will watch those kind of videos, but the general public would not be interested. They're more interested in the cut down version.
Well, what it is it's people, Samantha. It's people with everything now. They want, it's like instant gratification. They don't want to sit there and watch a video for 2 hours. They want to watch it for 10 minutes and see all the action in 10 minutes, and then move on to the next one.
Yeah.
And that's what we got to deal with. It's like we're trying to get the information out. We're trying to get younger people interested, and maybe get some good new generation investigators. But it's like you got that battle going. It's like old school and new school, and it's like you got to try to make everything fit.
Yeah. The problem I had, and I tried this way back, was to try and cut it down. And I remember one occasion I threw the baby out with the bathwater. Actually, I threw out a piece of evidence that actually just when I listened to it back and picked up this EVP in this abandoned hospital where I was on my own, I stood on a piece of glass, and immediately after, these abandoned buildings, a lot of the windows are smashed in and there's glass just everywhere. And it's very hard to avoid standing on glass. But I was walking into this room, and I walked on a piece of glass, and you could hear the crunch. Next thing you could hear this female voice going, "You broke it," and I'm going. And it's the first, I wasn't even a paranormal investigator then. I was a abandoned explorer, and that is one of the reasons why I says I do not understand where this voice is coming from, and I really need to know. So I actually gate crashed somebody else's paranormal investigation, and that's how I started back into the paranormal. It was pretty exciting to get that first EVP when I wasn't even looking for it. But I was getting these EVPs while I was abandoned exploring. I wasn't out there looking for spirits or ghosts. I was interested in going forward in that way. When I started picking up stuff on audio, and I go, there was nobody else with me. Where's this voice coming from? That's when I started, and then I ended up. I was on eBay every couple of days, and there was packages and packages and packages coming to my house.
You're gonna have to get a van. You're gonna have to get a 3/4 ton van to haul all the stuff you got, because it's like you're pulling out a case of this and a case of that, and I'm like, holy shit, I can fit everything I got into a backpack and a plastic grocery bag.
Well, the thing is,
I was watching your stuff when you were first doing it. You had no editing software, so you would start to record and you would walk through the entire place. I mean, it would be, an hour and a half, 2 hours, and it was just like one long video, and you had no way to edit or anything. It's like, well, I'm going to record the whole thing, and you were uploading the whole thing, and that was it.
Yeah. I know. I when I started off, actually, a lot of the time I was restricted to about 20 minutes. I was looking at the time, and then I was looking at the time on the camera, and I said, this camera's going to cut out 20 minutes, and then that is it, But the thing about buying loads of equipment, what happens is, you bring your favorite pieces, and you end up using the favorite pieces. The other stuff sometimes ends up being obsolete. But what we're going to try and do is we're going to try to freshen it up on every investigation. Try use a different spirit box. Try use different methods, and just instead of falling into that trap of doing the same thing every time, you know. Michael's budgie hasn't said anything yet. You can see a little cage there in the background.
Yeah, he's not there. It looks like, and it's like all of a sudden my chat. Hey, Boomer. Hey, Terry C.
There's Boomer up there.
Balls. If one of you guys want to come up, you don't have to do this. You can tell your story. Because it's like I've been looking, and it's like it's not moving. It's not moving. All of a sudden, I got like 100 different posts.
Yeah, somebody came into the room and he was called out and that, and they just put it on mute and that. You know, I can come down now if somebody else wants to come up, Greg. You know.
Well, I mean, I can get another person up here because you got. I mean, Samantha, you got a lot of knowledge in that head. You got a lot of experience from.
I'm learning like everybody else. Is Boomer Rock there? Is he?
Oh, Boomer was here. There's the link. Boomer is still here. Boomer, I ain't running a spirit box, so you can come up. Buttered Balls. She's cool. I'm not going to really get into how that name came about. That'll be for another video.
Hello, Boomer. Do you know the thing about your community in the United States? You've got a really nice community. You've got people like Camp 7, Ghost Mafia, you know, Boomer, and you've got Lou and all that stuff. You know, lately, I'm going to sleep at 4 o'clock in the morning. I get up at dinner time, you know, and that's where it's all at, you know. You got such a nice, great community there, you know. And it just actually been off looking at Green Bay Wacky and that, you know. That community, all sort of all interconnected in some sort of way. I think it's really, really good. We don't seem to have that here, you know.
Oh my God, Unearthly Wanderings is here. Julie, are you still here? Come on up. I dropped the link. No, it's like my diary. I was sitting there going over, and it's like nothing's coming up in chat. I thought, what the fuck? I'm gonna have to run in and get my doohickey haha to plug in so I can start charging this up because I think I'm at 17%. Okay, Unearthly, I dropped the link. Samantha, stay here. Okay. Seriously, because I mean, you got a lot to contribute here.
Really appreciate it.
Get my battery. Julie, come on up. Sherry, welcome. Because Julie has got, and I'll let her tell the story because there was something really interesting that happened with Clara. Julie, we want to hear Clara. We want to hear about Clara. She wants you to mention her name. I know this. So come on up, Julie. I'll drop the link again. The chat kind of moved quick. Oh, wait a minute. We got some. Wait. Oh, shit. Okay. I'm going to drop the link, and I'm going to go get my external battery. And while I'm doing that, Julie, come on up. And I'll be right back, guys.
Sorry, I can't even see the chat, folks. It's just a blank screen here. I cannot see the chat, so I can't. I would read out some comments if I could, but I can't. Unfortunately. I was saying, Greg, I would have read out some of the chat, but I can't actually see the chat.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay, well, Julie, welcome. I got to go back and take that doohickey, drop it
Oh,
off.
Julie.
Oh, I had my other one going. Sorry, I had to mute that. How are you?
Here's what I'll do. I'll just, I'm doing okay, Julie. Good to see you here.
Thank you.
Okay, now I can do that. Okay, yes. Plug that bad boy in. There we go. Oh, I was down to 14%, and now we're good. Yes, Julie has a doll, and the doll's name is Clara. I haven't been able to figure out the spirit's name, but Julie,
Mhm.
one night I came on your stream, and the first thing I noticed was Clara was pissed. She
Yeah.
was mad. Go ahead and tell that story.
Okay. So I can't even remember what happened beforehand, but yeah, I was doing a stream and Irish came in and he said, Clara's come to me and she's really angry, really, really pissed at you. And I'm like, oh, okay. So what happened was the night before I sat down and I was doing a little video in my house and I had sort of like an Ovilus app that was going and I was getting some pretty negative stuff coming through the Ovilus. And so it freaked me out a little bit and I put Clara outside on the table and I forgot about her and I left her there overnight. Now, before I told Irish any of this, Irish turned around and he said, I think he said outside.
Yeah, left back. That's what
Left
she told
back.
me. Left back.
That's right.
And I thought left behind, but I got a no, left back.
Yeah. And it was because I left her out the back the night before and she was angry with me because I left her out there. So she was dobbing on me to Irish.
Yeah, she was tattling.
Yeah, she was.
Wow.
And she was like, she asked me, she goes, well, why is she angry? And I said, I'm getting left back. I'm getting that she's saying left back. And then she's like, oh, okay, well, I'm gonna tell you something. And I'm like, automatically I said, you did something. And Julie was like, yeah, I did.
That was amazing. Absolutely amazing. So is she telling on me for anything else?
Well, I did this basically kind of like what we discussed, but like we discussed, it's like we're going to keep that. So if anybody else gets something, it's going to validate it. If they can come up with the same stuff, then it's going to validate it. So we're just going to kind of keep the rest of it under wraps. And
Yep.
this is a very, very unique situation, I'm going to say. Very unique.
It
But
is.
yeah, she tells on you, Julie.
She does.
She does.
And it's always to you.
Yeah, I don't know why. No, so far it's been whenever, even
Yep.
sometimes when I see a video, it's like, okay, I'm not gonna say anything because this is gonna sound really freaking weird. Me typing
Yeah.
a comment into the video about this.
So she connects with you even through my published videos.
Yeah, sometimes
Wow. Okay.
it's like if you put her somewhere and she's not really happy,
Mhm.
it's like I don't want to be in the sun right now or things like that.
Yep. That's amazing.
Now, why? I don't know. She just does.
Yeah, I was saying earlier on that I was kind of skeptic of haunted objects There is a possibility, people when they were alive, they're attached to a teddy bear. They bring it everywhere, and it is a possibility that these spirits are still attached to one of their favorite items and things like that. I mean, like I watched John Zappas for years, and I mean, like he doesn't come across as a person that is going to is doing this for publicity. I mean, he's got a museum in the basement of his house,
Yep.
But I'm actually skeptic of everything. I try to debunk every single thing that I come across. I think it's important that we sometimes try to do that.
Yes.
But when it comes to haunted objects and haunted dolls, people are going onto eBay and buying, a negative doll or a positive doll and stuff like that. Some of these dolls are coming from charity shops that they bought for $1 or $2, and they put a very extravagant story about it, and then they sell it for a profit. So trying to get one of those genuine items with that genuine attachment, it's extremely hard when you have so many fakes out there on eBay and some of those sites that sell stuff online,
Yeah.
I've been on eBay, and I was looking over $100 on eBay, and it seems like everyone I looked at probably 20 of them one night, and I got 19 bullshits and one maybe.
Yeah.
But the one doll I got, I was looking at secondhand stores here locally, and I got the picture up. I've done a few videos on it. When I picked it up, I got, a little boy. This was owned by a little boy. And I was like, okay, it's a little boy doll. It's owned by a little boy. Okay, no big. I put it down. I walked off. And I was talking to the owner of the shop, before that. It was like something kept like the doll, that one particular doll. So I went and I picked it up. And when I picked it up the second time, I got an older woman. Handled it a lot. And I was like, okay, now this has got me curious. Why did I get this? And then I'm getting this. And I didn't pay a lot of money for it. And it was just sold as a old secondhand doll. I got it for $4. Okay.
Wow.
I did not go onto eBay and spend, $50 for a haunted doll with a big story that, and then they got this big story, and they also got disclaimers like, well, you can't sell something and claim it's haunted on eBay, so we don't know. This is just a doll, really. I was like, oh, the seller's covered. So if you sit there and buy a doll that you can get at a yard sale for $2 and then spend $30, okay, that's on you. But I mean, I just got this one. It was marked $5, and I said, "Is this your best price?" And the guy's like, $4, it's yours. Okay. So the doll that has the spirit attached of the little boy's name is Michael. It was $4.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
then, that it was a attachment haunting. And so far we got quite a bit of backstory. There was a family, they lived in Germany, they came over, and through several different sessions, different people getting things. But I don't think the spirit of Michael is not there all the time. He's crossed over. But when you start handling the doll, mentioning his name, and like I say, handling the doll, he'll come back. But he's not here all the time.
Yep. I think that when I first bought Clara, I had a similar story. I thought my intention originally was to get a doll and to try to debunk the doll and to prove that not everything that you buy on eBay or online is going to be haunted. It just so happened that when I got Clara, I walked away from the sale as you did, and I waited about a week, and I kept being drawn back to her. So I eventually bought her, And then when she came, she did have a story with her, which I believe is not accurate. I do believe that there is a spirit attached to her. I don't know that she's actually a vessel, but there is a spirit attachment or an energy there that we can communicate with. Yeah.
I think the problem is, you know, there's people out there that do collect these haunted dolls. Now,
Yes.
I bought this first doll, you know, off eBay, but it was a paranormal investigator. I just got lucky. You know, I done Spirit Box sessions. I never mentioned the doll's name. I recently done a Spirit Box session where I never mentioned it wasn't anything to do with the doll. I said, "Is there a child here?" They said, "Yes." Now it was supposed to be an old woman that was attached to this doll. I said, "Is there a child in this house?" And they said, "Yes." "What is the name of that child?" And they said, "Molly." Now I never mentioned Molly because I'm afraid if I do say a name, it'll be repeated back to me. So I think there is something there. But what happened was I got attached to this other doll that I seen at a car boot sale, which was a Marilyn Monroe doll. And I walked away from it a couple of times and it just kept coming back. I says, "I've got to have this." So I paid £5 for it, brought it home, and I had the two dolls together. And one night, the Marilyn Monroe doll just went flying off the table, and the two legs broke. You know, and I cannot understand it. I know it is top heavy, but if it was top heavy, it would just fall over in that. But it felt like it just went it slid across the table before it was propelled.
Yep.
And I don't understand it. There is things sometimes. I mean, like I had a loaf of bread that was in the middle of my table one day, and which just went. And then I was on camera one night where there was a ball of paper just flew past me, hit me in the back of the head, and came back out the other side. I could feel the swish, and I didn't know until I played back the thing, and I says, "Listen, there's something passing me there, like." And I thought it was a fly in that. But when I looked out at my computer, I seen this ball of paper. I know for a fact that I didn't have any balls of paper, you know. So I don't know. You know, people do often say that if you take too many haunted, if you get these haunted doll collectors and stuff. Is it a possibility that some of these spirits that are attached to these objects, when they get together, like human beings, they just do not get on?
Yeah.
You know, and that possibly was what happened with Marilyn Monroe doll. Now at the moment it's taped up with electrical tape, but I will get around to fixing it. I was pretty disappointed when the two legs had broke and that. But there's a possibility that those two energies or those two spirits that were brought together don't get on. We often when we listen to a Spirit Box session, there sounds like there's an argument going on. It's not actually anything to do with you, but if you just listen, there's people you know, there's vulgarities going over and back, and it sounds like there's an argument going on. And then, you know, we're there and we're listening. Why did you call me that? And it's not necessarily that the spirits called you a name. There could be spirits having a bit of a falling out between themselves.
Yeah.
Because we're getting these different voices coming through, you know. And that, you know, I used to collect these porcelain dolls, and it wasn't anything to do with the paranormal. I just loved porcelain dolls, and I had over 60 of them. And there was one particular doll that was on the shelf, and every time I went out to the hallway, this doll was on the floor. And I moved it around to different parts of the shelves. I even put dolls in front of it, and every time I went out to the hall, this doll, even if I put a doll in front of it, this other doll would end up on the floor, but the doll in front of it would stay still. I just couldn't understand it, you know. And I wasn't. I had still.
Oh, Samantha froze.
So, you know,
Yeah, she's frozen.
When we're going to charity shops,
You froze
and picking
for a
up
minute, Samantha.
Sorry? What did it freeze?
You froze
For a
for
minute.
second.
Yeah.
Am I back? No.
You're back now.
All right, right.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a person that goes to charity shops and I buy interesting things, and very often we could be taking something back with us that we just don't know. Do you know?
Yeah.
Well, see, that was my original intention. I was going to go out and I was kind of looking for a doll, but I wanted to see if, experiment to see if, spirits could attach to different objects, not just dolls, not just a doll, but like a figurine, maybe, something else, that you can find in the secondhand store or usually a vintage shop, where they sell vintage items and antiques and stuff like that. And see if you could have, attachments on different items, a piece of jewelry, maybe some little, cheap little knickknack or something like that. It didn't have to be a doll. And I just happened to find a doll. And like I'm saying, I think the doll chose me
Yeah.
because
It found you.
I kept getting called back to that doll. And I was like, I wasn't really interested, but it's like the doll. Come back, check out the doll. And
Yes, sometimes you're compelled to buy something. You cannot explain it. You just have to have it, you know.
okay, what I did is I put Michael backstage because I haven't even seen him moving around. So
No, it's just his budgie there, but I didn't see his budgie. I see a budgie cage in that, but the budgie doesn't seem to have anything to say to us at the moment.
So, Michael, if you want to come back in, you need to come in and actually say something. And but you're in the green room right now.
I've got a theory.
Mhm.
I've been watching for a little while.
Yep.
Been lurking. And Irish, you know how you said you feel connected to Clara?
Yeah, well, it's like she'll come to me.
Yeah.
Fee.
I reckon that maybe because I know Julie, you got it from the US, didn't you?
The what? Sorry.
You got it from the USA, didn't you? She come from the
Yeah.
USA. I wonder if she's related.
Oh. Or in your area. I'm going to have to find out what area you're in, Irish, and tell you where she came from. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell Irish about what happened yesterday when we were chatting. The knocks?
Oh yeah. Yeah, the knocks. All right, the knocks. Julie had to leave the room for a minute. And whenever she leaves the room, I always talk to Clara. I always say, show yourself or knock on the desk or whatever. And last night I heard a couple of knocks on the desk after Julie walked out of the room. And it was awesome.
I was looking for headphones.
Yeah.
My headphones weren't working. And Fee heard knocks on my desk.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I left Clara in my backpack, my ghost hunting backpack. So I went to get Clara, and my headphones I were looking for was with Clara in my backpack.
Yeah. And I noticed that they're working tonight.
Yeah, they are.
And
Go
they weren't
figure.
working last night.
She wanted to come out.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Do you have Claire there? Hold her up, Julie.
Yeah, I've got it here. I've got this dodgy little dress on her. There she is.
Hello, Clara.
Wow.
Okay, remember what I told you. Well, at least it's not blue, because I told
No.
you she doesn't. She likes blue, but blue is for boys, not for her clothes. And
It's
she
pink.
wanted red.
Pretty cool.
She is
Wow.
cute.
I love her.
Brilliant.
Hello.
Say
I know I've
hello,
been
Clara.
here for a while. Hold her close. Oh my God! I swear she's smiling. Hold her close.
She's got those haunting eyes.
Yeah, she does.
Yes. Is the doll pretty old?
Yeah, from what I could tell, it was dated to be, I think, 1950s.
Yeah, it
But
looks
I'm
as-
not.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can tell
Well,
by
I-
her hair.
I will
Yeah.
just, I will say, I'm going to expose one thing that we discussed, Julie. The spirit is older than, from the 1950s.
Hmm.
I think you've
Yeah.
already mentioned that, Julie, so I think we're safe in saying that. We
Yeah.
can expose that. But as
Yeah.
far as the other details, I'm not going to say anything. Maybe
Yeah,
Samantha can pick something up.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Are you getting anything, Samantha, looking at Clara?
I'm when it comes to sensing things, a lot of the time I sort of have to be in the room, and I can sense energies, but that's kind of it for me. If you know what I mean,
Yep.
Yeah.
you know. Yeah, we in I'm classed as being in the UK, but I'm in Northern Ireland. But we had this case of the bridal doll, which was featured on the BBC. Now the bridal doll is now owned by a YouTube channel called Ghost of Britain, and is now in a museum that they actually just opened. I think it was about 2 weeks ago, and it has stories of people being scratched, and that's why it had changed hands so much, and I actually got interested in that when that actually was featured on the BBC, and it was a couple of years ago when that was on the BBC program, and then I got interested in that particular channel because the channel is based in the UK, and one night he took out the doll, and I was saying, "Oh, you're actually the owner of the doll. I didn't actually know that, But he had all these items in his house, all these different items, including the famous original painting from called the Crying Boy, which was actually in the UK was actually there was a campaign through, I think, the Star newspaper, where they were saying, "Send your Crying Boy picture to us," and we would burn it in a bonfire, and we would film it for the BBC or whatever television network it was. Actually, my mother had a copy of this. It was mass produced as well. Apparently, the painting was actually burning. There was mysterious fires started in a lot of houses where the Crying Boy was, and the Crying Boy painting would survive and stuff like that. And I specifically remember when I was a child thinking, "Mom, why are you breaking up this painting?" She says, "I think it's haunted." I says, "Why? Why would a painting be haunted?" Well, it said it on the television. I don't want to take a chance of burning her house down, so I'm picking this up and that. I remember she put it on the fire and that. It took ages to burn. And it's possibly because the copies was made of a certain material that were very hard to burn. We don't know. But yeah.
That's what I heard, Samantha. Because I heard those same stories, and then when they started checking into it, it's like, well, a lot of the fire. There wasn't really a whole lot of fires, because back then you had the oil lamps and all that, so there was a certain amount of fires. But people started talking about it's like, oh, the whole room burned except this. But when they started checking into it, the copies were made from a flame retardant material.
Yeah.
So everything could burn, but and you got a lot of furniture like that now. They have, it's flame retardant. Carpet is flame retardant.
Yeah.
So that's what they did. And people's like, oh my God, my whole room burned except for this item, that fell off the wall. It didn't burn. It scorched, but it didn't burn. Well, yeah, it's flame retardant material.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
But people weren't really aware of it at that time. So the stories of, everything being devastated in the room except that painting or the reproduction of that painting. Well, because they didn't know.
Yeah, and I actually seen a test. You know the way we know that heat is lighter and it rises. So the top of the room is going to be the hottest. What was happening was the fire was burning the string that was holding the picture, and the picture would drop to the floor. But actually, most of the heat in the room was actually at the top.
Yeah.
So it was actually sheltered from the extreme heat that would have been rising up at the top of the room.
Yeah, because it would fall, and like I said, it was flame retardant, so it wouldn't burn, and then everything that was burning would kind of fall on top of it and protect it from the other flame, which would reduce the heat that was actually getting to it. And that's what it was. The natural thing about the painting is it was just basically a new science that people didn't understand.
Sorry about that. Going back to objects and that, and objects with attachments and that. Sorry, I'm trying.
I think it's Claire trying to call you, Samantha. That might be Claire.
No.
I'm actually in an apartment that's 2 years old, but that doesn't mean that there isn't history, because we go to car boot sales, we buy old dolls, and we buy old items. But we actually, if we live in a relatively new house, we're bringing history into that house.
Yeah.
With the objects.
Yeah, that's right.
Actually,
I'll tell you, the winery I used to work at, it was over 100 years old. Paranormal activity. I got videos, EVPs. I got EVPs where I haven't even made videos for, because I was trying to get plenty of video before the winter came. And I still haven't used it, but part of the reason why the winery closed is because new houses were being built right next door. And the winery had big ammonia tanks, they had sulfur dioxide, and they couldn't afford the insurance anymore because, the danger from it. So what they did is, they sold it and they started tearing part of it down. And I asked the spirits, I said, there's a lot of spirits here. I go, are some of you moving to other wineries, with the equipment being pulled out? I got a yes. I said, are any of the spirits moving into the new houses new houses? They are just being built down on actually a field that was once part of the winery and part of the grapes, but it is now, a housing area. And I asked them, I go, are you moving into those new houses with the people there? Some of them. And I got a yes. So some of those spirits that have been there for years are actually going to be in houses that are 1 year old, 2 years old. And I think maybe 3 years old now is going to be the oldest house.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering that, because we actually recently lost a location that we were doing a long-term investigation. We were doing an investigation almost every week in that particular place, and we only got 4 investigations done. But we got this communication. We got, as I said earlier on about, I asked the spirits, if there's a spirit here, can you please show yourself as a light anomaly if you're here? And next thing, this light went up the room and it flickered, and that particular place was burnt to the ground. I didn't know about it until Rachel is big into social media. I basically live under a rock, but I found out that the place had burnt down. So it'd be interesting to go back and see if I do a one final couple of spirit box sessions on the site, where the building was, see if those energies are still in that place or have they moved on, and it may take more than one. It may take more than one visit, you know. So I'll compare that to the 4 investigations I've already done to see does spirits move on after a fire or a demolition or anything like that, you know.
Oh, that's what you got to do, Samantha. You got to go back. I mean, you can investigate a place once, and it's like, okay, yeah, hey, we got paranormal activity, but go back 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, and when you start getting the same voices saying the same names each time, you know, you've got something.
Well, the reason for doing this was, you see a lot of paranormal YouTube channels, and to keep the audience interested in their content, they need to go to a different place each time, and that. But we decided, you know, I'm not a YouTuber as such. We're paranormal investigators. We use YouTube as a diary. So why don't we go back to this other place? What we're going to try, what we were going to, you know, we were going to go to a different place now and again and stuff. We'll just keep coming back to this and try to build up a portfolio of investigations to see over time, does going to that place and doing a paranormal investigation, does the activity increase over time by your presence being there? And do you increase communication by regular visits and regular possible communication and stuff like that? So that's what we were planning to do. So we're trying to get another location where we can do that particular experiment. And I think I found this particular school that I went to, I think it was last week or the week before. It's so that we can do an investigation in the wintertime. We need something with a roof on it, you know. You know, we could do it in a cemetery and that, but if it's raining, we can't do it. And that. So to have a building and do that, what we're trying to do is we're trying to see, familiarizing ourselves with the possible spirits that are there, so that they will. Does that increase the trust that they can communicate? So we can compare the first investigation with the last one, you know?
Yeah, I think it does, Samantha. Because, I mean, you're coming in and they see you over and over, and it's like, I mean, if you're showing them respect, then they're going to be like, okay. And it's like, coming back again. Well, okay, the respect's still there.
Yeah, I mean, you know, with our paranormal content, and as it says earlier on, I take snippets of each different video and I use that as an intro and that. But you see paranormal channels there, and you see the skulls and the scary music and stuff like that. And I think in a way it's kind of, I don't know, I feel like if I do that, I'm disrespecting the spirits, because it just isn't always like that. You know, sometimes these spirits they're loving spirits. They used to be like us. You know, they've passed on. So why are we portraying them with these scary skulls and scary witches and stuff and the scary music? I know we experience scary stuff, but humans by nature are scared of stuff that we don't know. Do you know? But I just never liked the skulls and the scary graveyard kind of look.
Yeah,
you know.
What it is like, I think they feel like we're being misrepresented. We're not all, you know, we're not like this Hollywood, ghosts. We're out to like destroy, you know, everyone that comes in our path. It's like, that's not us, you know. Why are we being portrayed as like disrespecting? But something I want to bring up, Julie.
Mm-hmm.
Crystal.
What crystal? I have a lot.
No, for Clara, Crystal. Did you get her a crystal?
No. I forgot all about that.
Shame on you.
She's
telling on you. She's telling on you.
She's done that again.
She's telling on you.
She's reminding me.
Because I'm sitting there looking. I keep getting crystal. The word crystal.
Yeah, she's
Not
dobbing on
white.
me.
Pink crystal.
A
Pink
pink
crystal.
one. Okay.
Yeah. And I think
Yeah,
preferably a heart,
rose.
not one of those little straight ones, but preferably a heart or like a rose-shaped one.
Yep.
Crystal, Julie.
I'm gonna
I
have
think
to
you owe-
get her one.
I think you owe her an apology, Julie.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Clara. I forgot. There was so much going on. I forgot. I will write that down, and I will remember that. I will have to find her one. Definitely. And if she wants a heart, I'm going to have to buy one because I don't have a pink heart.
I think that's what is pink, because I was getting crystal, and it was like I was trying to, and I was thinking of like maybe like a, you know how they have those straight, white quartz crystals.
Yep.
But I was getting pink heart.
Pink heart.
Mm.
Yeah. The only heart that I have it's an orange one, and it's way too big. So I'm going to have to get her another one. Yeah.
Big
one
no.
for her.
As soon as you said orange, I got big no.
Yeah. She wants one for just her.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially just for her.
Yep.
And no second hand.
Yep.
Just for her. No pre-owned.
Yep. She's a bit fussy. She's putting her demand in now. It's weird because her hair looks more curly now that I've taken her hat off.
Mm.
Have you noticed that? I'll show you. Her hair looks really curly now.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I noticed that like in the front on the well, it would be her right side. Or at least
This side?
no, the side away from you.
This one.
Yeah.
I think she's had long hair before and someone's cut her hair.
Mm,
You
looks
see
like
that?
it. Yeah.
It does look like
Because you remember the picture I'm looking at is probably about 3/4 of an inch tall by an inch wide on my phone.
The crystal.
No, the picture of you that I'm looking at.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Your little picture, so it's like you're trying to talk detail, but I'm looking, it's like an inch wide, maybe 3/4 of an inch tall.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
your head is 3/8 of an inch tall.
Yeah.
I don't know how you do this. I don't know how you do this on the phone. I find it very hard. I find it very even hard to text on the phone. Or use social media. I'd rather use a computer. The bigger screen.
Yeah.
It is,
To be going
it is
on
real
live,
hard. It's like sometimes when I watch other people's streams, it's like they're like, it's like I said hi 3 times Irish, and it's like, yeah, I'm looking at 6-point font from 5 feet away. I can't see it.
but you're doing a brilliant job with a phone, and we've got these panels where people can come up on that. It's absolutely brilliant,
Mm.
Yeah, it is.
And the thing that we can do it on the phone. Imagine way back in the early 90s and the 80s when mobile phones came out, all they could do was make phone calls.
Exactly.
And you had an address book. There was a couple of games like Snake or a few things like that. And the technology that we have now. Imagine you could, you're basically you're making a TV channel from your phone.
Yeah.
And we talk back then. We go, no way.
Well, the phone that I'm streaming from, it's an LG Fortune 2. So I mean, you can look that up and see what the screen dimensions are on that. But that's all I've always used. So it's like, this is what I have. This is what I got to work with.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm looking in Julie's background. I'm waiting for that dog to move or wave at us or something. Sitting in the background in the dark,
I've never caught her moving.
No.
I don't think you will catch her moving,
No.
like, because I told you how it is,
Mhm.
but and I
just
told
said-
you handling her every now and then.
Mm. And I
just-
always stick to those rules as well.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I just said the movement thing as a kind of a joke.
Yeah, I know. We
Did
got
you see
all
that?
excited once because in one of my live streams, we actually thought she moved, and then I went back through it, and I actually moved her earlier on, and we didn't
Right.
realize. Yeah, so
Well, that's what happened. That's what happened in the first one where I had my haunted doll. I'm like, holy crap! Did the doll move? And it was like, yes, the doll moved. The doll moved. And it's like I could see the doll was in a different position, but I looked, and I had the doll leaning against a paper bag, and I looked at the top of the paper bag, and it was moving slightly. There was a wind. There was a wind that caught the top of the paper bag and moved it like maybe a quarter of an inch, and the doll fell backwards. So the doll didn't move; it just fell back because the bag moved.
yeah, that's where it's good to debunk everything. Go back
Yeah.
through it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, sorry guys, I jumped the gun. It's the wind. It's not the doll's not moving. It's not going to jump up and start doing a tango, you know.
Done.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and it's 3:30 here, and I got to go to work tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was glad having everybody on. I appreciate all you guys coming up.
Thank you for having us.
Thank
You
you.
made
Thank you very much.
made your kick ass.
Yeah, thank you
So,
very
and I want to
very
do it
much.
again.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's my first.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's my first time ever on a panel, so thank you very much.
You
For the
did
opportunity.
awesome.
Yes, you
Yeah.
did.
I know I tried to get you up. I tried to get you up here the other night, Samantha, and you're like, I just woke up. My hair's a mess, and I'm like, don't turn your camera on this. But yeah, well, I mean, it's good to have you up. Good to have Julie. I haven't seen you in ages.
I know it's been too long.
And me, same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to thank all you guys for coming up.
Thank you for having me.
Everybody in the chat,
Thank you very much.
And
Absolutely.
definitely do this again.
Yes, for sure.
Yes.
So we'll see everybody later. If you guys want to say, your traditional, however you end your streams, if you want to go ahead and say that real quick. We'll go
Thank
ahead
you
and
thank you everyone for coming in. Believe.
Bye.
Samantha, your turn.
Be good to each other, folks. Thank you very much for this opportunity. It's absolutely brilliant. My first time being on a panel. Hopefully, I'll have more opportunities and I'll be able to do it myself as well. So good night to everybody that's at nighttime today. 11:30 a.m. here. Good morning to anybody that's on this side of the world. Thank you very much.
Okay, guys. Everybody have a good night, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may be. Sleep well. And until next time, you guys, stay safe.